We are in open session. We're just going to wait for everyone to settle for just another second, then we'll proceed as normal.
What do I do?
Oh, here, is it the same thing I have? Maybe try that.
Oh, maybe.
It's the same password, right?
Yes, okay.
Yes, same
wait a
password for all of you.
I need the same.
No, that's the email, so it's the one in the box.
minute. Oh, 50, okay.
55, mate.
Well, now why don't you announce?
Are you worried about giving away free Wi-Fi?
No, it's not the Wi-Fi, it's the laptop
Oh, I
password.
see. Okay, we look like we're assembled. Let's,
Is there an asterisk at the end, or was
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
we are now in open session. Welcome to the November 28th meeting of the Westford Select Board. We're going to start, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Patty, would you be willing to lead us today? Thank you so much.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United States of America,
to the republic
and the republic
stands
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're all trying to sync up with you, John. We're in a loop. Open forum, any open forum items for tonight?
I just have one reminder for the public. At last select board meeting, the select board voted to authorize a memorandum of understanding with Bootstrap Compost, and that actually goes into effect on December 1st. So residents who wish to have curbside compost pickup, either on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, can start signing up on Friday, and there's a minimal fee for that. If you're already getting pickup by Bootstrap Compost and you're in the old fee schedule, that new fee schedule will go into effect on December 1st. So hopefully some residents can take advantage of that.
Excellent. Any other comments?
That's the.
Okay, this is for me. Yes, Patty.
I do pledge allegiance. I'm going to give it. I just want to announce that the 2024 dog tags are available starting Friday, December 1st. So don't forget to license your dogs. You got 4 months. Don't be late.
Great. And before we open up to the public, I do want to draw people's attention to this excellent book that we got in our last select board meeting. This is the Community Teamwork Community Needs Assessment 2023. You can find it by Googling Community Teamwork Community Needs Assessment 2023. Community Teamwork serves the Greater Lowell area and a bunch of other areas in the Commonwealth. It gives a bunch of interesting information about Greater Lowell communities and Westford itself, including the fact that Westford is the fastest growing community in terms of population in this Greater Lowell community. We have the most children of any other towns in this area, which I think we knew. And it gives a nice summary of what respondents to a survey gave about their top needs in Westford, including housing, which we're focusing on a number of ways, mental health services, which we're also focusing on a number of other things. So a bunch of useful information there if you're interested. And it's just a 2-page summary of the Westford information, so quick read if you are interested in doing that. Any comments from the public for open forum? Okay, our 705 item is the consent agenda with requests to approve the following. There's a banner request for the annual Strawberry and Arts Festival. The applicant is First Parish Church United. The dates are Friday, June 7th to Monday, June 17th, 2024. The location is First Parish Church. Also, there's a banner request for an event, the Rodenbush Community Farmers Market Opening Day. The applicant is Rodenbush Community Center. The dates are June 25th through July 5th, 2024. Location is J.V. Fletcher Library and Abbott School. And then requests for the Town Common and Bandstand. The first is an event, the annual Strawberry and Arts Festival. Applicant is First Parish Church United. The date is June 15th, 2024. The rain date, Sunday, June 16th, 2024. Time is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And that is it. Those are the requests. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, and we're doing roll call tonight because we have a member who's remote. John?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Next up is 7:10. We are not quite to 7:10 yet. We've got a couple more minutes. We could probably move to the 7:15 item, which is a solicitor permit appeal request from David Sorensen. For the public, there's a respectful and careful process that we follow for these. So all we're going to do in the open session here is entertain a motion to either support or overturn the solicitor permit finding that's been found so far by the chief. So I'll entertain a motion.
So I will move that we overturn the denial of the solicitor's permit request from David Sorensen.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Andrea?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. And we have another couple minutes for, we have one more minute, let's see.
Here's the 725 item.
Let's do the 725 item. So,
yeah.
let's see,
Oh, is the housing committee here? Or is-
is the Housing Authority folks here? Maybe just coming into
Yeah.
session may take a little bit longer than we've got. Let's just wait for one more minute, and then we'll go ahead and move to the open session. Or, excuse me, move to the public hearing.
We could probably have them move to the table at least to get settled.
I'm sorry?
We could have them move to the
Oh,
table to
that
get
would be
settled.
great. Thank you, Kristen, good idea. So if the Housing Authority could please come on up to the,
The public hearing.
excuse me, the
Public
public hearing members could please come up to the bench here, that'd be great.
All right, we're at 7:10.
And we're there, okay.
I will move to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor, Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John? And I'm an aye as well. So we are now in the public hearing. This is a request to transfer of a Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, all alcohol license at 137 Littleton Road from Pepper Dining Incorporated, doing business as Chili's Bar and Grill, to Aquasource LLC, doing business as Stir Martini Bar and Kitchen. And we usually ask Patty first if everything is in order and if there's anything we should be aware of.
All good.
Okay. And we're glad that you're here tonight. If you've got something brief you'd like to share with us, that'd be great.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Happy holidays. Thanks for seeing us this evening. Seated to my left is the proposed manager, Caitlin Hannigan. Randy Richards, who is also the co-owner with Ms. Hannigan in the establishment, is here as well. This is a known commodity in this town. The applicant is currently operating its restaurant and bar, Stir Martini Bar, over at Two Powers Road. They've had great success over there. They've had a great license track record with the town of Westford. And the demand for their food and beverage has grown so much that they've outgrown the space that they're in, and they need more space. So that's really the driving factor here, that you have some economic development success necessitating a larger space. So they're looking to move from Two Powers, where they're at right now, to 137 Littleton Road, where Chili's has been operating. So in terms of seating capacity, it's a little over a 3X in terms of what they have right now versus what they're going to. Bar capacity, same thing. But for all intents and purposes, it's the same business model. They just look to do it bigger, better. I'm sure they'll continue to improve their offerings to the community. You have all the application requirements that you typically need. They will be leasing this space for the long term. I'm told that there is a deal in principle for their existing location where somebody's going to come in as a sublet to take over that dining space. So there was likely to be a future liquor license transfer for that space to a new restaurant at that location, which will be a separate matter. So Stir is coming over to this location to be operating a liquor license here. They're skilled operators at this point. You know, they've demonstrated success and good character in holding the license, and they hope to have your continued support as a business in town, and we certainly are open to any questions that you have.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board? John? So we thank you for being entrepreneurs here in Westford and investing in the community.
Thank you very
I'll
much.
entertain a motion to approve the transfer as described.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor. Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
so
Thanks for
much.
being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The town has been great to us, so thank you, we appreciate
Oh,
it.
good.
Glad to hear it.
Congratulations on your growth and success.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next up, 725 item is the joint meeting with the Housing Authority. So who is here from the Housing Authority?
You're good. Close the
Do we need to,
public
do you want to
hearing, right?
call your folks into session?
I'm going
or
to
should
close the
we-
public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Public hearing?
Thank you,
Yep,
Patty.
you're right. Was that your motion, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Thank you, John.
Are any of them signed on Zoom?
So I have Diane Wood, Lynn Cohen, and Mike Wells on Zoom.
Okay. I think we are good. So there's a proposal to appoint Patty Doobie. We know Patty
We're not
well.
good because they need a quorum.
Yeah.
And we have to do in joint session.
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
we
it's
still
not
have
an
10
appointment
minutes
that we make.
until it's a joint appointment because
Okay.
it's a special one-off because it was an election.
How many make your quorum, Nancy?
This only,
She needs 3.
I need three, let me call two of them.
Okay.
Okay.
So what we'll do, Nancy, is we'll suspend this one. If you do get the folks on, just let us know and we'll come back to it.
2 minutes.
Okay, next up is the 740 item, which is to review, discuss, and act on sidewalk plowing on Oak Hill Road for winter. And Steve is going to come and help us understand that.
Thank you very much. With me tonight is Kyle Fox, our Assistant DPW Director. Kyle started with us in January of this year. So he is excited to get his first Westford winter completely under his belt. Yep, exciting topic tonight, sidewalk snow removal. As you're probably aware, the Select Board and Pedestrian Safety Committee established a sidewalk snow removal pilot program back in the 2015-2016 snow and ice season. It included a 3,575-foot stretch of sidewalk on Plain Road from Oak Hill Road to Namnasset School. We extended that program in the 2017-2018 season to include an additional 2,300 feet of sidewalk on Plain Road from Namnasset School to Nutting Road. It was extended yet again in the 2018-2019 season to include the town center, 9,500 feet of sidewalk, which includes both sides of Main Street from Abbott School to 39 Main Street. It includes Lincoln Street as well as Boston Road from the town common to Crown Road. So currently under the pilot program, the DPW removes snow from 2.9 miles of sidewalk using an outside contractor. We bid that out 2 years ago with an option to renew the contract for 2 years. So at your last meeting, you renewed the contract to continue the pilot program for this year. Independent of the pilot program, the facilities department also removes snow on some various sidewalk segments throughout town, primarily leading up to school properties. West Street from Blanchard School to St. Catherine's Church, Farmers Way from Groton Road to Stony Brook School, along the frontage of Westford Academy on Patton Road. And it's worth noting that the DPW doesn't provide any equipment or labor to assist the facilities department in any of these activities as of right now. We're well aware that it's been a goal of both the Select Board and Pedestrian Safety Committee to extend the program. Currently, knowing the financial situation of the town, we don't feel that we're able to extend the program substantially, but we've been asked by the town manager's office to investigate opportunities to extend the current program to include the newly constructed compliant sidewalk on Oak Hill Road that was built in 2022. That being said, we did solicit quotes from vendors and look into opportunities to rent equipment to extend the current program. So Scott's Tree, who's currently the contractor for the pilot program, provided us a quote of $95 an hour with a 4-hour minimum. And we had a local contractor as well who provided us a quote for $150 an hour to plow the sidewalk on Oak Hill Road. We looked into options to rent equipment through the state contract. Unfortunately, there isn't any equipment available to plow the sidewalk and meet compliance. So, right now, we budget about $36,500 per year for the pilot program, and we're estimating that by including Oak Hill Road, it'll add an additional $10,000 to $12,000 this snow and ice season. Obviously, that's based on weather and what we typically see, which is about 20 events per year. So that being said, we're here looking for guidance from the board if they'd like to extend the program and approve a purchase order with Scott's, as you see later in the agenda, to add that to the pilot program.
Great. Thank you so much for the summary. Questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, so, everybody's looking at me.
Chris?
I will say that I'm in favor of this, and I have been working with Steve and Kyle and Kristen to try and move this forward. You know, when we started this pilot program, and, you know, I don't know how long we should call it a pilot program since it's now, what, 8th year in its existence. We had done Plain Road, and after that first winter, we surveyed all the residents on Plain Road that had the sidewalk cleared. And I think we got 93% approval rating for that program. So it is something that I believe the residents really appreciate, particularly in an area of town that's thickly settled and has a school where kids are actively walking to school year-round. I think we should continue to, you know, run the program, look for ways to you know, make it better as we can, and make it something that we can bring in-house, and we've also talked about that. But as an interim solution, I think what you are proposing makes sense. I think the people along Oak Hill Road will be sorely disappointed if the town does not clear that sidewalk and we continue to clear the adjacent sidewalk, Plain Road. So, you know, in my opinion, I think this is the right move to make.
Other comments?
No, yeah, I don't have an issue with, you know, clearing Oak Hill and connecting it all, you know, so that they can walk to Plain Road, so they can walk to the little shopping center that's there. And, you know, we have a sidewalk, you know, hopefully, you know, people use it, so, and it's in a place where you know, people live in congregates, so for another $12,000, I'm fine with that, despite our budgetary problems.
So to Chris's point, you know, we've had a lot of discussions internally about opportunities to expand the program further. We know that there have been multiple surveys through both pedestrian safety and its strategic planning retreats, and there seems to be overwhelming feedback from residents that they would like to see the program expanded townwide at some point. So we have been working on a draft transition plan, you know, breaking our sidewalks up into prioritized segments, you know, as Chris said, focusing on schools primarily first, and then looking at you know, conservation resources, you know, daycares, commercial districts maybe as a priority 2, and then everything else sort of as a lower priority 3. So, you know, at some point we'll be back to discuss those priorities and how we hope to reach that goal.
Either now or later, I'd just be interested to know if you were gonna sort of expand it by a significant amount, by a factor of 2 or something, would that include some sort of capital request so we have the equipment and then we'd use our own people to do it, or would it be continue to outsource, or what's the strategy you think?
Yeah, we are still looking at that a little bit, but I think in the long term, it's probably gonna make the most sense financially for us to invest in the equipment if we're gonna continue to do this townwide. You know, if it's gonna be smaller segments, you know, we'll have to do a bit of a cost-benefit analysis and see if it makes more sense to rent the equipment seasonally. But the ultimate goal is to expand this, you know, significantly beyond what we're doing now. I think it's worthwhile investing in the equipment. It's worth noting that we do have a significant backlog in our fleet needs right now that we're trying to overcome through capital over the next couple of years. It's our hope that by doing that, we're going to become more efficient in some of the other things we do, and that, you know, we can then invest in equipment to work on sidewalk snow removal.
Okay, that's very helpful. Yeah, I'm in favor of expanding this as well. John, any?
Well, I'm in favor of it. I got a question. Steve, are these contracts not to exceed with a maximum amount, and then you take another look at it if they start to go over? Is that the way it's written?
Yes, yeah, we would be back if we were going to exceed the not to exceed amount for sure. But yeah, that's how it's written.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sounds like. And so, do you need a vote or just guidance?
So if you would like to vote now, you can vote on item 16 C3, that's Scott's Tree and Landscaping for sidewalk snow removal for approximately $12,000, or you can wait to do the purchase orders all at one time. It's really up to the board.
Why don't we go ahead? Well, I'd be kind of interested in doing anything that's related to public works, I guess. In case people have questions. Are we holding Steve for any other reason besides?
So we
these two?
do have Steve and other members of his team for item 11, discussion on sidewalk construction and maintenance.
Just the immediately following one?
Yes.
Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and take the This is 16C3 on your agenda if you're following, so I'll entertain a motion to approve Scott's Tree and Landscaping, Inc. for sidewalk snow removal services on Oak Hill Road for approximately $12,000 as requested by the Public Works Department.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye.
And I just, again, like to thank you guys for doing this work. I know you have a tremendous amount of other things that you have to do, and I really appreciate it, and I think the town population will really appreciate your efforts here. So thanks very much.
Okay, well, without further ado, why don't we move to the 750 item, which is discussion on sidewalk construction and maintenance.
They can't come. Okay, so we're gonna have to move it to another meeting.
We'll do another time.
Okay,
Okay.
all right,
No-
so we'll
no
move
problem.
it to December 12th.
Maybe
No, you're here for the night, Paul.
Is there a hockey game going? Is that why?
No, the Bruins aren't scheduled to lose anything tonight,
Oh,
so
okay, all right. So you're free, okay.
they're in a slump, they're in a slump.
So Paul Starrett, our town engineer, is going to join me for this topic, sidewalk construction maintenance. So as we progress on to the next phase of sidewalk construction here in town, we wanted to provide a brief update on some of our projects and let the board in on some challenges and seek input from the board on how to proceed. Just as a brief update, we constructed 5,100 feet of new sidewalk on Oak Hill Road from Plain Road to Route 40 in 2022. We reconstructed 4,000 feet of sidewalk on Plain Road from Navnasset School to Oak Hill Road this past construction season, and added an additional 1,200 feet of new sidewalk on Moore Road from Plain Road to Brookside Road. That being said, anticipated completion for that project was spring of 2023 this year, but due to some weather delays and material delays, primarily granite curb, that was extended to October of 2023. So some of the projects that we had really hoped to accomplish this year were ultimately delayed to the next construction season. One of those projects is the Carlisle Road sidewalk project. Ultimately, we're looking to extend the sidewalk from Route 110 down to Applewood Drive. This is a project that was originally appropriated at special town meeting in 2020. And we've been trying to overcome a number of challenges to get this project off the ground. So we intended to try to leverage the Newport mitigation agreement to construct both phases of this sidewalk, with phase one beginning in fall of this year, as I said. Again, due to the weather and some material delays that Newport's experiencing, we weren't able to get that done this year. So we're looking to start that in the spring of 2024, and we're currently in discussions on whether or not we're going to be able to construct both phases of Carlisle Road next construction season. Paul has been working diligently to secure some easements on commercial properties, which was certainly a struggle, but we were able to get it accomplished, and at this point we're ready to move forward with construction. We do have some easements that need to be secured on residential properties for phase two and for some of the crossings. So we are going to need the board's support in getting those, and we'll be working with members of the board to try to obtain those over the course of this winter and spring, so that we're ready for construction next year. But we're aware that we've had some conversations with these residents, and they haven't been overwhelmingly in favor of the project. So we are going to need the help of the board to try to obtain those easements. Speak to that, Paul?
Yeah, we, and of course, approaching all of our residents respectfully, understanding that it's their property. And in the past, the select board has not wanted to exert its eminent domain powers, and we certainly support and understand that. It doesn't make for a good project when abutters aren't on board with our plans. But in this particular case, I think there may be just some differences of opinions on what is going to serve the public the best versus what their personal private interests are. But and I can tell you that these are not significant impacts. Our design team has done everything they can to get off of private property. That's our first instruction to our designers. We don't want to do the amount of work involved in appraisals and eminent domain takings and seeking these waivers and just recording easements it's arduous. So we always look for opportunities to stay off. But the geometry of safety governs, and we just can't do it. So we will need perhaps a different voice will do the trick. If someone else makes the overtures for these easements, that would certainly help. We're talking about the second phase from Liberty Way up to Sweetwood. No.
Applewood.
Applewood.
Thank you. I knew there was wood involved. So the commercial, interestingly, I was able to secure 6 of the commercial properties on the other side, on the Littleton Road side. It was very challenging and difficult. Nobody during COVID was willing to shake loose on any of their properties, and each of them were well represented by council, and those conversations were extended, but I was successful in getting all 6 of those. But the residentials are, you know, I can be a little less assertive with residents, so that assistance will be needed. We don't anticipate problems on what I expect Steve will talk about next, the Plain Road project. We only need 6 there. We've had multiple meetings with residents as the select board policy directs us to, and with the pedestrian safety committee, I think there's a lot of support. We haven't had anyone come forward with ideas or notions to oppose the work there, so working with the town manager's office now to get those appraisal offers out to residents on Plain Road, but not to jump the gun on that project.
So as Paul mentioned, we have 2 phases of sidewalk planned for Plain Road, rather. So phase 1 would be from Nutting Road to Grassy Pond. That's 2,280 feet of sidewalk. We do have an existing appropriation for that of $670,000 that was approved at annual town meeting in 2021, I believe, or 2022 rather. And again, you know, it's our hope that we can leverage the mitigation agreement to offset some of the cost and be able to reappropriate those funds for either Plain Road Phase 2 or other sidewalks throughout town. It's our hope, again, that we can begin construction on Plain Road next construction season in 2024. You know, we have commitments from Newport at this point, verbal, and we're working with the town manager's office to coordinate a meeting so we can get those in writing and guarantee, hopefully, that that's going to get done next year. You know, there are some challenges, obviously, as Paul mentioned, with right-of-way and utility relocations, drainage, and things like that. You know, so it's going to have its obstacles for sure. Plain Road Phase 2 is from Grassy Pond to Stony Brook Conservation. That's another 1,750 feet of sidewalk. We've met with pedestrian safety. We've gotten feedback from abutters. We're working on finalizing that design, and we have a capital request this year for construction. You know, it's all going to depend on what budget scenario we end up moving forward with, but you know, I think we understand that under, you know, a non-override scenario, it's unlikely that that could possibly be funded this year. So again, I think, you know, it's in the best interest to try to pursue the mitigation agreement and use that to construct Phase 2 as well. So certainly happy to answer any questions regarding these projects and any feedback the board may have regarding using the mitigation agreement versus trying to publicly bid these projects.
For the piece that you're interested in getting select board support with the residents who are concerned about the project that you're talking about, could you give us a sense of timing when you need that to be done, and maybe what you're envisioning, how many people are involved? What's the best role that we could take to support this?
So I anticipate that if the discussions we've been having with Newport come to fruition, that they follow through with what we've been discussing, that we could move forward with both of those phases in both of those projects, in fact, early in the spring. So we would, if we're going to rely on that, we don't have to go through a bidding process. Because Newport has worked on the equivalence with us, we don't need to hire another contractor to prep, another contractor to relocate utilities or build ramps. Rick is working with us through the equivalents that are provided for in the mitigation agreement. Of course, the sooner the better is the best answer I can give you, because we'd like to have all of our ducks lined up before we advance a project.
So early 2024 is really.
Yes, I would say early 2024, Kristen, would be the best. And that, it could simply just be a start with a phone call conversation to each of the 2 residents that have had objections from someone on the board that you may have success where we have not.
Okay, so there's 2 parties.
There are 2 parties.
Okay.
2 properties that I just cannot move. I can't narrow the road anymore. I can't move stones anymore. You know, they're de minimis impacts, but they're impacts that I have to have.
And Paul, are these permanent easements or just construction easements?
One of them is permanent and one of them is no, I believe actually they're both temporary. I've got 3 projects circling in my head.
Understood.
I anticipate that they're only temporary.
Could you explain the difference, please?
Right. So temporary easements are needed to give the contractor room to work, especially in particular for cases like this, where if a resident was going to just come out and stand their property line and just make it impossible for the contractor to swing equipment, move rocks, use their excavating equipment. So the temporary easements are for that purpose. They're always restored back to equal or better condition, and I'm the one who gets to decide what equal is, so it's always better. And the permanent easements mean that we're going to have a remnant of the sidewalk structure itself on a property, and the easement is there actually to protect the landowner, because if something happens on that sidewalk, it didn't happen on their property, it happened on an easement that the town took on their property. So it's really there to protect them. And we do easements, we don't do takings, because we don't want to upset square footages, setbacks, and other agreements that they may have.
I see. So just the whole timeline is we've got 2 parties that we want to engage with. We want to get their cooperation on a temporary easement, which mean that they'd be inconvenienced, unfortunately, for a period of time, but then back to normal. And for a program that's this important to the public, if we're not able to be successful with persuasion, we would need to move to some sort of eminent domain action.
So at
Is
that
what
point,
you see?
Mr. Chair, we would retain the services of an appraiser. We would secure an appraisal, and then we would make a written offer to the resident or the property owners of title, and then we would execute you would execute an order of taking, which I believe town meeting has already authorized you to do that on all of these projects. That's one of our first steps. You execute the order of taking, and then we commence the work. The person is then eligible to appeal, not to you, but in the courts, to appeal their appraisal. They can have their own appraiser, and then we can negotiate a price. That's the eminent domain process for an easement.
Okay, thank you for making that so clear. So the ask is for us to reach out to them, work on persuasion first, and then we can come back and regroup and see what's next. Any questions or comments from the board? John?
Yeah, Paul, you said that both of these are temporary easements that you're worried about?
Correct. Yeah, it's, and yes, on Carlisle Road.
So there's no alternative means of construction that you could put these in without having that easement?
No, unfortunately, on one property, we have to do some grading changes to make the ramps accessible and compliant with the American with Disabilities Act, or otherwise, I would, much rather than being here tonight, I would rather have found a way to build the sidewalk without an easement.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I don't know if, I guess maybe just a consensus for the board. I would be inclined certainly to support that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think they're far. I think it's just maybe the right nudge and the right persuasion. We certainly haven't gotten the response over my dead body. Nobody
Well,
has said
that's
that.
Well, that's good, and it sounds like we're on a train here and want to be respectful and polite and inclusive and persuade if we can. So let's do that. I don't think we need any, do we need anything more than that?
No, I
Kristen,
think
for
the
that?
other question that we may want to get into this evening or proceed at another meeting is that the team has experienced some struggles with Newport and the mitigation agreement because Newport is tied up with other business. The agreement isn't exactly set in stone that they shall give us X amount of material per year. It's really over a 10-year period, and Steve is tracking that very closely. So the other option that is on the table is to, rather than using the mitigation agreement, in some instances, actually going out to bid and paying a full contractor to do that work, or purchasing the materials and having our town staff do that. So Steve, if you could just probably wrap that up. I probably didn't speak to it very clearly, and then I know we've been having some conversations about where.
Yeah,
to go from
so
there.
under the mitigation agreement, Newport's required to construct the equivalent of 10 miles of sidewalk to the town specification of 3 inches in depth and 5 foot wide with vertical granite curbing. When you look at a sidewalk project, that encompasses a very small amount of the project itself, roughly, probably 30% of the total construction. There are a lot of other things that go into sidewalk construction. As Paul mentioned, right of way is one of them. There's clearing, there's grubbing. Depending on where that sidewalk's being constructed, you could have retaining walls, you could have drainage. To install the sidewalk itself, in the grand scheme of things, is relatively small in the scope of the entire project. So, right now, under the equivalent, we're trying to work with Newport to basically see what the equivalent cost is of all those other items, in addition to what they owe us, and then construct that basically in an equal value. So, the challenge is if they can't do that, we then need to go out to bid for all those other services. Now, we've constructed some sidewalks here in town using a different contractor to perform those services, and then Newport to basically install the granite curb and pave the 5 foot wide sidewalk. The challenge with, there's a number of challenges with that, including scheduling conflicts, warranty issues, performance standards, all those. It's our preference to use Newport in the equivalent, but, as we said, it has been a challenge to get them out there. If we were to use outside contractors for all this other work, the price is certainly going to be a lot higher. So it would be our preference to use them, but otherwise, we may need to revisit the agreement and see if there are other opportunities to secure materials and bid this out in another form.
Okay, so a possible review of the agreement, and I guess it would be voluntary on both sides to re-engage and make it more clear. So is there something specific you'd like from us there, or just a general awareness this is going on? And
just a general awareness. To date, we've constructed little over 1.2 miles, I believe, of sidewalk under the agreement, so we're slightly behind where we would like to be. With the commitments we've gotten recently from them, I think we're going to be back on track at the end of next construction season, but we at least wanted to get on your radar that we are aware of it. We know there's a need, and we are pressing.
okay, so we'll either through Kristen or directly, we'll hear from you if you need additional support.
In fact,
approaching that.
Newport we're setting up a meeting with the town manager's office and Newport, just for no other reason than to meet each other and to talk about some of these things. And in fairness to Newport, they've been doing what they can, but they are up against what we're all facing in the construction industry right now is just availability and weather.
Yeah. So it sounds like
6
they're-
days we lost to torrential rains.
Sounds like everyone's acting in good faith, but maybe more clarity might help so that
Right.
we can stay on track.
I would say that's a very fair statement.
Yes.
Okay, well, let us know if we can be of service there. Be happy to step in if that's what you decide you need.
I think there's one other aspect of this is that we discussed, and that is, and maybe you called this out, and I didn't quite understand how you were saying this, but the option of going back to Newport and saying, instead of giving us the sidewalk materials, we'll could you give us like value in just asphalt, for example, which they can make ready use of, and it's a lot easier for them to manage, versus the difficulties that they have to do from a management perspective with how the contract's laid out now, or the agreement's laid out now. And so will you be bringing that up when you have the meeting to see where that goes?
Yes.
Okay.
That is within the four corners of the agreement as you wrote it, so we could do that.
Okay. Great, well, we appreciate the update and stand ready to provide support, and we're already signed up to provide some support with the residents who are concerned about the temporary mitigation there on their site.
Is anybody willing to make those calls?
I can make those, or maybe I'll solicit by email and see if anyone else feels inclined, but yeah,
Okay.
we can take that on.
Feel free.
We can get you the
I'm
information.
happy to
Yeah,
go by.
I can give you
somebody
background
new?
on those, Mr. Chair,
Feeling
before
it
you make
shouldn't
those
be
calls. I'll give you the contact and the background on each
Sure.
of those.
Okay,
I'll give you the information you need.
I look forward to that. Thank you.
I'm a great salesman. What are you talking
Oh,
about?
I know you are. I just didn't, I didn't know.
I think they probably
didn't
already
know
heard
if
from
you've
Chris, which
already-
is why he's deferring.
I've already heard from you.
I wanted to, but I
Okay,
tried not to.
back
Thank
on
you,
track.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. We are now at the 8 p.m.,
8 a.m., really?
8 p.m. item. Consider request from the Monuments and Memorials Committee to approve a bronze plaque memorial at Freedom Park in honor of Francis Michael Sullivan.
Can we take that now?
We can, it's just approximate time unless it's a public hearing.
Okay, great.
Good evening.
And I guess just, Terry, out of respect for your team, but it's, you and Jeff were planning to come. We're not waiting for somebody else for the
No,
time. Okay.
just, Jeff's gonna actually run with the ball. I just, as the chair of the Monuments Committee, we have an obligation to provide applications to you. We've worked with Jeff. Jeff spoke to us in Conservation Commission, and I think it's and Veteran Services has done extensive research on this particular gentleman, on Mr. Sullivan, and he's a really worthwhile candidate of who we should be honoring here in Westford.
Great.
So-
Well, good. We look forward to hearing about it. So, Jeff, please.
Well, Francis Michael Sullivan was the son of immigrants who moved into Forge Village in the early part of the 20th century to work in the mills. So, I mean, it's a great story. On top of the fact of the work he did for disabled veterans in the latter part of his life, but his work with the American Legion, and much of that work was put into what became known as the GI Bill of Rights. We came, I don't know if you remember, when his son was up here, was probably about 10 years ago.
Yep.
And left this booklet. And I know you have a copy. I think there's one in the library.
Get Jeff, I think that's mine. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Gave you yours back. I think I have the receipt here, Ben. But when he did, and 3 years ago, when we did the walking tour of Forge Village, and we're researching Forge Village, Marilyn Day was the one who pointed to this and said, read about it. This is quite an individual. And when you read, it says, let me just read one excerpt from the book. The plan for a single statute was approved by the Legion Executive Committee in November of 1943. Within a few weeks, Francis Sullivan, the acting legislative director, had drafted a bill. Holding added the emphasis, and Bennett Clark had introduced it in the Senate. The whole force of the Legion was brought to bear, departments imposed on individuals, urging actions by Congress. The GI Bill of Rights helped create the middle class in this country. This guy lived in Forge Village. His bedroom was probably in the area where we're going to be putting the monument. And isn't it just, it's just ironic that an Eagle Scout took upon this 8 years ago and created Freedom Park for veterans. So at the time when we discovered the work that this gentleman did, I had gone to Linda Green at the Historical Society and said, gee, it'd be great if an Eagle Scout could pick up on this project. well, after 3 years with no Eagle Scout picked up, I says, I think we want to run with it. So that's why we've contacted the Sullivan family, have gotten input from them. We have gone as to the Monuments Committee, who've given us their full support. And I've gone to the Conservation Commission, and we have their full support also. So, any questions from the board?
Yeah, please, any questions?
This is just a general question. It goes back to a discussion that we had when we were talking about the canal monument. I'm fully in support of this, okay? So I just want to say that up front. But we did have a discussion back months ago about creating criteria and standards for monuments and memorials here in Westford. And while I think this gentleman fully qualifies, and I was fascinated to read, your materials and everything that he did for the veterans and for our country, I am still left with, we really need to follow up and follow through with setting some sort of criteria and standards for our monuments and memorials here in Westford. So that's just a general comment about the process.
Just in moving on here with this, do we want to take that up as a joint, we can work with John or somebody, a representative from the select board, to come up with something that we would present? Is that what you would like to see from us?
I mean, I at least think it also would be a useful thing. And let's just pause there for a second. Does everyone feel like it might be helpful if we
I
had
think
some?
the conversation before was that the Monuments and Memorials Committee was going to present something to you for discussion, if I recall correctly, but I would have to look back.
That's
at
my
the-
rection as well.
Didn't think it was in my, all right,
Okay,
okay.
or maybe not, but maybe that's a good idea now. So if does it make sense to the board that we would go ahead and create some sort of joint exploration of that?
I don't even know if it needs to be joint, rather than Memorials and Monuments Committee brings it to you for, they compile it. We could review it as staff and then bring it forward to the
That
board.
sounds great. That would be fine, but if you'd like support from someone on the select board, I think.
Policy has a number of items in it now. Well, I guess what you're more concerned about is the physical locations, maybe?
Or the people and the places and.
Yeah, the people and the places, I mean, what,
We left it very broad in scope, obviously, for reasons of,
right.
we wanted anybody to apply just to see what the applications. I don't know how to specifically go out after a demographic and approach them, although we've got some ideas and some stuff coming down the pipe that may honor, a group of people and stuff like that, but nothing's come as an application.
Why don't we first address just this specific request and then maybe come back to this broader issue, because I think it's an important one. So any questions specifically about this request?
No.
Just
John,
to,
any questions, John?
And Terry, where is this located? It's in Freedom Park, or whereabouts in Freedom Park?
well, we're
Well,
gonna
the
put,
location would be, if you're familiar with Freedom Park, there is a gazebo, a small walkway, and a flagpole. And it would be in front of that walkway. And we did that specifically at the request of the Monuments Committee, because Terry, having been involved in the activities that take place on Memorial Day, didn't want somebody tripping over it. And so this puts it off to the side. It's not a large monument. It's probably about 2 feet high with a bronze plaque
21
on
by
it.
27,
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't want it to be an obstruction to maintenance of property as well as our events that we hold there, during the course of the year.
Does that answer your question, John?
Thank you. Yes, it does. Thanks.
Okay, I think for that particular question, we're good, so I will,
So why don't,
just need this is a vote item?
The goal is to have this done by Memorial Day and make it a dedication on Memorial Day of 2024.
Sorry, Andrew, do you have a,
I was gonna make a motion.
oh, please do.
I
Please do.
I'll move that we approve the memorial at, the bronze plaque memorial at Freedom Park in honor of Francis Michael Sullivan.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Andrea?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. So thank you for that. And
Yeah.
just, Jeff, do you have something else you want to mention?
I just want to, just one footnote. I don't want to take away from the others who contributed as well. This was a collaborative effort, and it went through Congress. And the champion of this happened to be Edith North Rogers out of Lowell, who took the seat when her husband passed away in the mid-1920s. I personally had the opportunity to meet Edith North Rogers. I had breakfast with her in the Capitol building in 1960 when I was a Lowell Sun paperboy. And we had our pictures taken out on the steps. The guy beside me just happened to be town manager's uncle, who was my roommate.
Small world.
Small world.
Small world.
That's great. Well, good. Well, thank you for your work on this. Thank you for following up. The broader question of the criteria of who we're selecting, and also, I understand it's not the Monuments Committee's role to do this, but I'd love to have some thought about how we sort of celebrate the full breadth of the community. I feel like we tend to recognize white men, and that's great because they're powerful contributors and they're worthy. I just would like to see some way that we're thinking about who do we reach out to, how do we solicit so we get the full breadth of what's made Westford amazing. And at least that hasn't happened yet. So I'd like that to be something that we're thinking about. I think that's part of what came up before.
Yeah.
So I guess just to the Monuments Committee, does it seem fair for you to think about that a little bit and come back to us? Would you like someone from the Select Board to join you in that thinking? How would you like to
I think
do
I'll
this?
tap into the skills of the select board, because there's some, John and I had worked a couple different times and had meetings on stuff, and I think, I mean, we're unfortunately two white veterans here, but we can still be inclusive
Okay.
of lots of, yeah, I think we're both sensitive to the matter, yes.
Yeah, and
It is an issue, and
okay,
We-
so
we
maybe with
understand
John's
it.
input, if John, if you're willing, maybe we can ask you to think about that and come back in a future meeting.
Sure.
And if I can be helpful, I'd love to. I'm thinking like, how do we invite people, make them aware this is something we want? Because I know that it's not the committee's job to generate all this. It's hopefully engaging with
Correct.
people who are like, yeah, we should recognize the amazing women in science and the pioneering, people of color of interesting backgrounds that have been here. So I hope we can find some way to engage with people who can give us those ideas.
okay, very good.
Okay, I think we're okay with that one.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thank
Sarah.
you.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, we are now at the 8:15 item, which is the continuation of American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funding request for town meeting equipment. And the summaries are available, and I think, Madam Moderator, are you gonna?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Would you like to come up and join us for this piece?
And just to level set the conversation, just wanted to remind the board that there is a balance of $361,269 ARPA availability. The finance director and I are still auditing the projects that you've already approved and understanding if those will come in under budget, and there will be other available funds, but we don't have that information this evening. So again, $361,269 at this point in time.
Okay, and I think we're expecting the Council on Aging to come back
Some
with
of that
Jeff at
might
some
come
point
back.
to make another sort
Exactly.
of structured request. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Welcome, thank you for your hard work on this. I know I've read your emails with great interest.
Well, it wasn't just me, so I don't want to take all the credit for it, but, so are we talking about,
I think let's talk about everything, and I can help you
Okay,
where
great,
you need to
great,
fill
'cause
in.
I
And
only-
Sarah Fletcher is online as well. I will
Great.
promote her to panelist.
so we really have two things here. One is the additional clickers, and the second is the equipment we need to allow for much more adequate two-way audiovisual presentation at town meetings where we're going to have two rooms.
And we have additional poll pads as well. That was. a
And
late
additional
addition.
poll
That
pads,
was-
sorry,
yeah,
forgot
that's
about,
okay.
sorry Patty. And some additional poll pads which will improve the check-in process and make it quicker. And as I don't have to tell you, those were 3 issues that we had at this last town meeting. We only had 800 clickers, we had 1,100 people. The proposal is to get an additional 800, which would bring us up to 1,600. That's about the maximum number of people we can fit in those 2 rooms at the academy, the auditorium and the gym. So I think that that's a good number. In terms of the poll pads, is it 4 more or 6 more?
6 more.
6 more, which will bring us to 20. Correct me if I'm wrong, we had 8 at the last meeting? We had 8 on the advice of the people who sold them to us, that would be plenty to check in the number of people we were expecting, and obviously it wasn't. So with 20, I think that'll be a good number to allow us to do things in a speedier manner. We'll also be thinking about setup to try and make it easier for people to get to the poll pads as they're checking in, so we won't have a big backup of that. And then the audio-visual, again, would allow us to have 2-way communication and presentation in both rooms. So the people in the auditorium would be able to hear and see what's going on in the gym, and the people in the gym would be able to hear and see what's going on in the auditorium. And as it's explained to me, there won't be any significant delay or anything like that. There'll be no delay from room to room. Whoever's watching in whichever room will see the person who's speaking. That's the picture that they'll be presented, and will hear the person that's speaking. If you're in the gym and someone in the gym is speaking, there'll be perhaps a half-second delay between what you're hearing in the microphones and what you're seeing on the screen. But there won't be that delay from room to room. So as I understand it, this is really the best we can get, and it's also my understanding of that from talking to moderators in other communities that are doing this. So I think that's...
Could you remind us of the numbers, just the cost?
Sure, absolutely. So the quotes we have are for 6 poll pads, $9,500. That's a one-time purchase. The 800 clickers, $26,850. Again, a one-time purchase. And then the AV setup, $18,695. I believe that is also just a one meeting. Sarah and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So I have a total of $55,045. But again, Sarah and Mike, could you correct me or bring any guidance to the AV cost estimate?
So yeah, that's a one-time fee. The one reoccurring fee will be the Zoom rooms that WestfordCAT will be responsible for. We can buy the rooms that we need on a monthly basis and then turn it off as we need it. So it won't be a huge expense year to year.
And by one-time fee, you mean that we'll have the infrastructure we need, so once we spend that money, we could continue to host these large volume meetings without additional cost.
So Sarah, can you clarify that AV equipment is for us to purchase, not to lease from the company on a year-to-year basis?
That's a purchase. And they're set up like kits. So we'll have one kit in one room and one kit in another room. And then if we needed to move to a third room, maybe we have to move into the cafeteria, then we can actually build out a third kit and bring that and, have the whole capacity. We have the capacity to grow it if we need to, but everything is a one-time purchase.
Okay, questions? Yep, Chris?
I'm curious, is there a lease for that equipment versus purchase? Because did anybody explore that?
There are companies that do lease. Sarah, you had talked to the company about lease versus purchase, correct?
Actually, I did not talk to about leasing. The Seth Graham is also on the line. He does our tech support and has put this proposal together for the equipment setup. If we could let him come forward and speak, that would be great.
Just have him joining now.
And so he is familiar with some other setups that were leased out, and some towns have spent many thousands of dollars on that. But this is a very cost-effective way to enable the 2 rooms to communicate in live real time.
Yeah, so to add on to what Sarah has mentioned thus far, and that's a very accurate description of a lot of the discussions that we've had. Some towns that I work with have not just leased equipment, but more so have leased full-scale production companies to not just bring in equipment, but to bring in production personnel to run some of their large-scale town meetings. And the sum of that is many multiples as opposed to what's being proposed here. Generally speaking, because of the quick pace at which a lot of this equipment does tend to age, it's usually just more cost-effective to purchase it, and then if it has to be repurposed for other uses in the future, that's generally a better path. So leasing equipment of this magnitude is pretty uncommon, but as opposed to purchasing, the alternative is to use a larger company to actually run the entire meeting, which wouldn't really be probably the best path in this case.
Yeah, I guess I would have thought that it would have been better to lease it for the point that you just made, that this type of equipment ages pretty rapidly. So we spend this money and then it doesn't work for in 3 years' time because of some incompatibility issue. And what do we do at that point, right? I'm not super familiar with this equipment, so I guess we would rely on you to, give us a best guess at the length that we could expect to be able to use it.
Yeah, so if I had to approximate it, and bear in mind I'm a technician and a professional services provider as opposed to an equipment dealer, so my opinions are based on experience of implementing this equipment. What I found is that the anticipated lifespan of purchasing something like this, generally, if treated well, anywhere along the lines of 4 to 6 years, perhaps, of usage, and I would say that's at a minimum. Whereas renting this type of equipment, which you would do on a one-off basis, equipment rentals would generally run for something like this maybe around $3,000 to $4,000. So your return on investment is quite quick. After, let's say, 3 uses, you've already purchased equipment that will last you, generally speaking, between 4 to 6 years.
Okay, thank you.
Just to add something here, I know it's not the same thing, but we just looked into getting, renting screens because we were trying to make the presentations more visible to people in the back of the room, and to rent 2 screens, just the screens, was going to be $6,800. So I think this system that we're entering into or thinking about purchasing is much more significant than the 2 screens we were going to rent. So.
And I think you did I know we're not talking about the clickers, but the clickers, you do have a lease versus buy, and
Yes.
I think it's like 2.5 times you're better off buying it.
Right. It's like 3 uses that gets us enough payback so that we're making the right decision by buying.
Yeah, and I think if we have to estimate when we might need it, that's a much more complicated problem than having it if we need it.
Yes, because if we have to estimate when we need it, we have to rent it in advance, and even if we don't use them, we've spent that money, so it doesn't make sense.
Other questions from the board?
Yeah, just another, sorry.
Yep, go ahead, Chris.
With that volume of clickers, how do you ensure that they're all operational prior to a town meeting? So you'd have 1,600 that you have to test prior to town meeting, essentially?
That's a Mike question, I think.
He has his little elves, and he just says, go
That's what they've been doing. They've been testing every one of them before the meeting, and I think, well, I'll let you answer, Mike.
Yeah, I thought that might happen. I think we're going to recommend that at the point at which we give these things out, we try and have some way of proving that they're working, because we did discover after the last meeting that there were about 4 or 5 clickers which didn't vote during that meeting, were given out but didn't vote. And when we looked at them, there were at least 2 of them, 3 of them were broken, not functioning correctly. So we do need to try and fix that. To operate them in this configuration that is being discussed with the 2 rooms, we're actually going to use an additional piece of equipment that we already have, a second receiver, and we'll have a dedicated receiver in each room, both feeding back to the counting computer. So we're going to lay a special private little piece of network, not connected to anything else, just for these voting machines, to talk to the vote counting computer in the gym. Each of the base stations is capable of running up to 2,000 receivers, and we will have 2 different receivers feeding this computer. Now we're probably getting close to the limit of what we can do sensibly on that one machine with those 2 receivers, I would say, but it's certainly within its capability. The issue of how do we figure out that they're all working in advance is a different question, really, and it's not related to volume, it's just related to how do we verify that many pieces of equipment.
Well, it is related to volume, right? If you only had 10, it wouldn't be that much of an issue for you to test. 1,600 is a bigger, ask. So I don't know whether it's at the beginning of town meeting, you do a test vote, and you just say, hey, we had X many people, checked in. Do we have that many clickers registered, and give people an opportunity to turn theirs in if they're having a difficulty, right? That might be one way we could do it.
This is absolutely on the list of things that we're going to be resolving, so that
maybe we turn that into a request to make sure that there is a way that we're verifying that they work, which maybe didn't happen the way we would have liked last time. Okay.
Just a follow-up. So, Mike, maybe for you, it seemed to me that maybe it was due to the volume of voters, but
Is this a delay?
The delay, yeah. Have we figured that out?
Mike and I are meeting with the technician from the vendor on Friday, and to talk about exactly that and figure out what went wrong.
Great. Other questions? So maybe, Kristen, if you can, so what we're being asked to do is vote to approve the funding tonight, so we're all good. Okay, so maybe if you could repeat the number.
Sure.
Maybe you could suggest a motion, that would be great.
Yep, so the motion would be, I move to approve the expenditures of 6 poll pads at $9,500, 800 clickers at $26,850, and the one-time purchase of AV equipment at $18,695 for a total purchase price out of ARPA allocation of $55,045.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you
for
very
this
much.
big project,
Thank
all the
you.
hard work on this big project.
Thank you, Angela.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Sarah,
Since we're
appreciate your work.
appointing Scott and he's with Angela, can we do that now?
Absolutely. Which,
It's 14E.
14E.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and jump ahead to 14E, which is to consider, well, this is under your bailiwick. Kristen, you wanna take this one?
Sure. So we have several requests for appointments of the board. This one is consider a request from the Personnel Advisory Committee to appoint Scott Harkness as a full member for a term expiring June 30th of 2024.
So moved.
Do we want to hear from the applicant? Or no?
Do you want to say anything?
Wait a minute, did you say 2024 or 2026?
2024. So John, we made an amendment to the agenda this afternoon. Patty
I
and
didn't
Pam
see that.
McNiff
Right.
we had some issues with the appointment expiration dates, so that is a change.
Would you like to come up to the mic, Scott? Just your name and your address, and just maybe shortly, briefly, your interest in the.
Why you want to serve on this committee?
My name's Scott Harkness. I live 15 Castle Road. I've been interested in personnel for a long time. It's one of the things we're working on in DEI. I think this would be a good match for the stuff that we're doing in the committee and my background in personnel.
Thank you. Any questions for Scott other than our appreciation?
Now can I make my motion?
You may.
I'll move to appoint Scott to the Personnel Advisory Committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Andrea?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking my ride out of turn.
No problem. Okay, we're now to the 8:30 item, which is old new business.
Great. So the first item of business is to review the annual town meeting timeline. Patty, would you like to take the lead on that, or would you like me to?
Well, how about you just help me a little bit?
It's the last time you're going to do this,
Yeah, come on,
Patty.
Patty,
so-
take it.
I know. This is pretty much a draft. Some things that could possibly change. I didn't get a chance to make sure from Jeff Morissette about the planning board because he had been out sick. So I think they're pretty accurate. I think, you want to use it as a guide anyway, but, dates and times and deadlines are in there. It would be a few things that might have to change, like a planning board meeting or something.
Right, so the high points, obviously your next meeting on December 12th, I will be presenting the fiscal 25 budget to you in the finance committee, and you would vote to open the fiscal 25 annual town meeting warrant.
I had added something more to that, so this is the draft before the draft.
Okay.
There's something else going on the 12th, but I can't recall it right now.
Okay, we'll get that information to the board. I don't recall either.
Just for the public, we are also encouraging folks who are interested in the school committee's budget presentation, which happens on the 4th and the 18th. To please join in there. That's obviously a super important part of the overall budget process. And while I'm talking about this, the select board will see the first budget. In this case, it'll be 2 budgets, as we've directed them. One is a budget that would fit within the Prop 2.5 cap and would be a balanced budget, and the other would be one that would be some combination of maintaining services with an override. The intention is that the first meeting in January, we'll have some time to think about it. There'll be some policy questions that come to the select board out of that discussion. The next time we address that will be the first meeting in January, and the intention is to have that be a joint meeting with the school committee and the finance committee, so we can all together kind of see if we're at a point where we're converging on what those specific budgets should look like. So, sorry to take you off topic.
Nope, you're totally fine. I'm not going to go through all these line items, but just big picture things that the select board voting the intention to lay out town ways. I don't believe that there's going to be any town ways. We haven't received anything from planning board at this point in time. Non-petition articles are due to our office for the warrant January 10th. Joint budget hearings start on Thursday evening, January 11th, and continue for the next 4 to 5 Thursday evenings. Petition articles are due to the clerk's office on Tuesday, January 23rd. And the board would be closing the warrant on the 23rd at their regularly scheduled meetings. Again, joint budget hearings continue on those Thursday evenings. At your first meeting in February, you'd review the warrant article order. And then FinCom continues to meet to review the warrant articles. Planning board would be continuing to meet, and we definitely know that they will be bringing forward the multifamily zoning for MBTAs. It's unlikely that any other zoning bylaw will be coming to this town meeting at this point in time. And then you'd be signing the warrant on your February 27th meeting. And then again, reviewing those articles with the finance committee. And then town meeting preparation, motion meeting internal on March 12th.
I'm sorry, what is that, when you say internal?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I didn't, first of all, it's at 2 PM and you said internal, so I didn't understand what you.
So we meet internally with town council, the chair of the select board, the chair of the finance committee, just to give a preview of what's happening. And then you'll have your meeting that evening where we'll be presenting final recommendations to you at that point in time. League of Women Voters preview is Thursday, March 14th. The town meeting warrant is posted at Town Hall on the 15th. We will likely do that ahead of that time. And then we're into town meeting week, where town meeting will start on Saturday, March 23rd with a 9 a.m. start this time at Westford Academy Gymnasium. And if we need another day, we'd move to Monday, March 25th. And then I won't go through it now, but there's also the submitting submitting items to go on the ballot and items related to any elections, which Patty will not be involved in at this time.
I say that and I don't really mean it.
I know you don't. You're gonna,
Gonna miss it.
you're gonna miss it.
Any questions for Kristen or for Patty related to the town meeting timeline? Okay, thank you.
Sure. So the next item is discussion of consideration of alternative forms of government to open town meeting. I know this was one of the comments that we received from a number of people related to the special town meeting we had in October. Mr. Chair, I think you wanted to just bring up a discussion item related to that.
Yeah, I think enough people raised that either in correspondence or in the meeting itself that we should talk about this. I guess my question for the board is that I feel like some of the feeling that maybe the existing form of operation was not adequate was related to the execution of the meeting itself. And so I at least would feel like we're making a clearer decision about whether this mode serves us well once we've conducted an excellent town meeting with a multi-room, large volume, so that people can separate and I can separate in my own mind, you know, now that we've solved this and are conducting an excellent, inclusive town meeting, is there still a remaining problem to solve, or do we feel like we're in a good spot? So my proposal is that we revisit this item after we conduct the next town meeting and feel like, and decide, does it make sense for us to kick this off based on some continuing unmet need, or do we feel like we've addressed a lot of the concerns that are out there?
I certainly would agree with you, especially because I just authorized funding for 800 new clickers.
Want to give them a chance.
Poll pads and, you know, equipment, so would really like to see how all of that works and plays out. And if that, as you said, alleviates the majority of concerns that we've heard.
Okay, well, good. Just for the public, we want to make sure that we are thinking about that. It was a clear recommendation for us, so we will bring that back when we're doing probably the after-action review of this next town meeting. Okay, thanks, Kristen.
Sure. Patty, I'll let you take the next one. The renewal and licenses. You want to take the licenses?
Looking to me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, the annual license are up for renewal, and I believe you must have a list, right?
Yes, there was a list in the
Like we
packet.
typically do every year. These would be approved subject to taxes being paid, you know, that they pay for the license before the end of the year, the usual things like that. Pretty much commonplace, and you don't have to sign
And we don't have to
them.
sign.
We'll take your signatures, we'll take care of it.
You miss the days of having to sit here and sign 100 applications.
That's right.
Any questions about these renewals? And do we need to vote for this?
We do, yes.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to.
I'll move to approve the renewals as listed in our agenda tonight.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor? John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
The next item is to consider a request from the Economic Development Committee to appoint Mike Rinaldi as resident at large for a term expiring June 30th, 2024. Again, this was a typo, John, so we changed that this afternoon. Mike did want to attend this evening, but he did have a work commitment that came up. He was at the Economic Development Committee meeting last time. Tom and I both got to meet him. He's a younger gentleman that has a lot of background in data, seems very well-spoken, well-read. Tom, I don't know if you wanted to add anything before.
Yeah, I think it'll be a terrific ad for the reasons you mentioned. He's sort of a finance person by nature. He's already digging in deep, sort of engaging with the community, so I think we'll be lucky to have him.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, Andrea?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Great. And just a plug for that, the request for proposals for an economic development consultant went out 2 weeks ago. Those are due back on January 4th. I've already been getting a lot of buzz on that and speaking with different people. So I hope we get some good proposals to review early in January for the committee to consider.
Great.
The last item under this item is to consider a request from the Council on Aging to approve emeritus status for Robert Tierney. The town manager does appoint Council on Aging members, but because this is emeritus status, before making that appointment, I just wanted to get confirmation from the board that you were comfortable with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, that takes us to board reports and updates. I guess I'll just mention here that the joint chairs continue to meet. We're meeting again tomorrow, kind of continue to make sure the budget planning is amongst all the entities is sort of well coordinated, so that's happening. Any other board updates, reports tonight? Yep, John?
Yeah, the MBTA Community Multifamily Housing Advisory Committee, MCMAC, is meeting Thursday night at the fire station. It'd be meeting in person and it'd be virtual too, be a hybrid meeting. And we're gonna be going over some of the latest information, getting some more input from the public on the options that we have in preparation for, open town or open meeting for, with the planning board in December. So we're moving forward, planning on bringing a bylaw to annual town meeting.
That's great, John.
So
Thank you.
they'd like to have as much participation, so for the public, they can come in and give their views on some of this.
Yeah, and also just a thank you to that committee. I know how hardworking that committee is. It's done a really super job helping us navigate this, so please join that meeting on Thursday, and appreciation to that group.
And John,
7 o'clock.
the survey is still open for 55 and older age group, I believe. So if people want to fill out that MBTA zoning survey
Yes.
for, if you're in
Yeah, it's
over
still
55 category, it's still open. We'd appreciate the feedback.
Okay, any other board reports or updates? Okay, town manager's report.
Great. So there's a late addition to the agenda as of today. Sue Thomas is now taking the lead on preparing our Green Communities annual report. That report is due on Friday. This past cycle, we utilized green community money for work at Westford Academy in another location, and it was just over $100,000. That report does require the municipal CEO to sign for submittal. That is the select board. So what I'd be looking for is for the select board to authorize me to sign that application on your behalf. We will get you the report in advance so that you're not blindsided when it goes in. So happy to answer any questions that might come up about that.
Any questions for Kristen?
Yeah. So when will we expect to see that?
Likely it's going to be Thursday morning. We're pulling together last minute data, so I apologize for the inconvenience on that.
Any indication on how many changes from the last report?
So it's really a report of what we have done in the past year related to the funds we received, and it's an update on the baseline data from when we first became a green community to where we are presently.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a
I'll
motion
move
to
to
authorize.
authorize Kristen to sign our FY 2023 Green Communities Program Annual Report.
Great, in a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, John?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Thank you. We have two contracts. We have Flush LLC, Allstate Berm Company LLC, and Eli Skolnick for snow plowing and snow removal for the snow and ice season 2023 to 2024 in the amounts listed in the contracts in your packet as requested by the Public Works Department. And we have Eastern Salt for road salt on the statewide contract VEH 119 for the 2023-2024 winter season as requested by the Public Works Department. I'm happy to go to purchase orders if you're okay with
Sure,
that
why
as
don't we
well.
keep going and we'll.
Allegiance trucks for Tower 1 fire truck repair in the amount of $10,959.79 as requested by the fire department, and WL French Excavation Corporation for the disposal of catch basin cleanings in the amount of $26,275 as requested by the Public Works Department. And just a reminder, the board did approve Scott's Tree for sidewalk snow removal services on Oak Hill Road.
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor, John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. And is there,
Move to waive reading of correspondence.
in a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, Chris?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Andrea?
Yes.
Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Thank you, Westford.
Good night, Westford. Be safe.
Good evening, yes, be well.